Okay, folks, we're going to do a very informative video here for people that are chasing down the coolant fan situation of the third generation Camaro, which this is a 30,000 mile original 1992 Z28 convertible. There is some differences between the years of the third gen. Some have single fans, some have dual fans, and I will show you in this 92 to what I remember of my 87 that is some differences between the years as well. But typically what people do is they'll direct wire a switch or go with an aftermarket radiator fan, which they can see they put that blue switch right there, which is now disconnected. This car is on 100% OEM, and I didn't want something to be out of the way it left the factory, which the only thing on this was this direct wire fan that somebody just got lazy. They changed the sensor in the manifold, which there are 3 sensors, and I'll go over that so people understand how this whole circuitry works, and don't have to go through what I went through research, because there's a lot of stuff on the internet and a lot of it is wrong, a lot of it is backwards depending on what year. But this is a 1992, so it only applies to this. So please, because my 87, if I remember right, that far driver's side was my primary and this was my secondary fan. And the way this works, guys, is your primary fan goes on with a sensor switch that is between the 6 and 8 cylinder down in there on the block. It's a single wire sensor. I replaced it with a lower temperature, 210 versus 220 or 30 temperature switch, just so it would kick on a little bit earlier. They like these to run a little hot, so I decided to make sure it kicks on around 200 to 210 degrees, which it does now. And this passenger side is your primary fan. The secondary fan kicks in for 2 reasons. One, as soon as you turn on the air conditioner, that fan will go on if it's working properly. The second is if this fan fails to work, that at about 235 or 240 degrees will kick on as a safety fan. And that's the way the system works. There are 3 relays here. The middle one is your fuel injection. This one is your secondary fan, not your primary. A lot of things on the internet told me that's the primary, but I own this one to the left all the way to that primary fan, and that's the line it is. And trust me, every wiring harness in this is factory. So this goes to your secondary fan and controls that. This is your primary fan relay. So that can go bad. It didn't go bad in my car. What my car was simply they failed to change out that sensor between the switch, between the 6 and 8 cylinder on the block, and that got everything running. And then I disconnected the wires that had it wired back to the switch. Luckily, they just simply, down there, you can see the little yellow wire, they clipped that power and just shared the ground that was already there. So I was able to make sure I put the switch in and tested it, so that when I had a meter on here, before I reconnected, I made sure that that wire that they clipped coming out of the harness gave me 12 volts as soon as I got up to temperature. And that's what fixes it. So, when you're looking at this whole system, you've got 2 relays. You've got 1 temperature sensor on the driver's side. That is strictly for your gauge. That's what gives your gauge the information to give you what temperature it is on the dash. The middle one is your sensor that communicates with the ECU, which adjusts your timing and does some different things there. That does not control your primary fan. Now, it may intertwine at some point if it goes bad that your primary fan wouldn't work, but on mine, it was replacing that sensor on this side, which is the third. So 1 is your gauge, 2 is your ECU timing temperature that runs in the manifold with the coolant that's underneath this apparatus here, and then the one between the 6 and the 8 cylinder in the block on this side controls your primary fan, which is now working perfectly and clicking right at 200 degrees, and we're good to go. So, I hope this helps. Leave some comments below if you disagree or, have had a different experience. But again, I can tell you this is my second, third generation Camaro. There is differences from year to year. You've got single fans, you've got dual fans, and if I was a betting man, I remember this being my primary on the driver's side and that being my secondary, and it is reversed on this car, and it is factory wiring. The harnesses have not been moved. I've checked that all out. Nothing has been tampered with. So again, reach out in the comments if this helps. I'm certainly glad to be able to be of some help, and I'll be enjoying driving a almost factory new 1992 vehicle that now has nothing different from when it left the factory.